Before we jump right into building our API, I'm going to show you the basics of creating an API view in Django. Start by loading up the Atom editor and opening the views.py file, which is inside our Profiles API app. The views.py file is where we create our views for our API. A view is basically the application logic behind our API. So it's the code that gets ran when the user visits our API endpoint. We're going to create a Hello World API view, a very basic API view so I can demonstrate how they work. We're going to start by importing the API view and the response object from the Django REST framework. So enter from rest_framework.views import API view. This imports the API view class from the REST framework.views module. The REST framework is the Django REST framework. Second, we're going to import a response object. So type from rest_framework.response import response with a capital R. It's very important that you get the capitalization exact. So API view is APIV all capital and then IEW. And response is response with a capital R. A response object is a standard response object that we return from our API view that can be rendered into an API output. So that comes with the Django REST framework, and the Django REST framework basically standardized the response that we need to output once we process the logic and we want to return a response. Now that we've added the import, let's define our Hello API View class. So we're going to define a class called Hello API View, and we're going to inherit from the API View base class. So type class Hello API View and inherit from the API View class. We're going to write a docstring test API View because this is a class we're going to use to test the API View functionality. So I mentioned in the previous lesson that API views work by defining functions that match the standard HTTP methods. The most common HTTP method is HTTP GET. This is used whenever you want to get a list or an object from a specific API. So let's define a function called GET. So type def get, and we're going to give it the parameters self, request, and format. I'm going to give it the docstring returns a list of API view features. So what we're going to do in this HTTP GET function for this Hello API view is we're simply going to return a list of features that the API view offers. So we're going to create a manual list of the features and we're going to return that object. So let's create a new variable called an API view. An API view, and we're going to create a new list. So put equals, open the square brackets, and the first item in the list, we're just going to explain what an API view does. So an API view uses HTTP methods as functions get, post, patch, put, delete. That's the first thing we're going to add to our list. The second thing we're going to add to our list is it is similar to a traditional Django view. The third thing we're going to add to our list is it gives you the most control over your logic. And finally, we're going to write is mapped manually to URLs. Okay, so that's a list of some features that an API view provides. Now we're going to return this list in a response object so it can be output from the API. We're going to type return response which is this response object that we imported up here. And a response object must be passed a dictionary to return the response. So the response is effectively a dictionary which is converted to JSON, which is output to the screen. So let's create the dictionary inside the response, and we're just going to say a message, and we're going to just write a message, hello. And the second thing is we're going to write an API view, and we're going to return our an API view variable, the list. Okay, so that's how you create a hello API view in Django. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next lesson.